Hello friends, I welcome you all today to this 8th Inertia Awards 2014. These are the 8th awards. We started in 2007. For 5 years we did these awards in Mumbai. In the year 2012, we first came to Delhi. And 3 years, the journey has only escalated. Our presence in the power sector and energy sector of India. And we have very fantastic people with us. People on the jury, I'm very thankful, who could enable me and my team, including Hetal Mehta. May I have a hand? Hetal ji, both of us are incidentally alumnus of National Institute of Technology, which was in those times called the REC. I studied from Kurukshetra. He is from Surat. And I think, one of the values that comes here is the institutions like NITs and IITs that have built, I would say, fantastic engineers, fantastic constructors, builders, people who have done wonders not only in India but also in the rest of the world. So in terms of institutional excellence, I would say we are also part of it. We've done a fair job. Of course, it's a big challenge because energy and power sector is a very large area. Domains are complex. It's just not one area. You have both the people we call about conventional energy. Frankly spoken, what the sun is giving and what the wind is doing and what hydro is doing is more conventional, if you look at it. So what we said, we removed the carbon, basically element called coal from the planet, and called it, when it came out, we called it conventional. The whole issue is when we had to start mobility, basically the steam engine, and that is the point of time we shifted the whole model. We started looking below the ground instead of looking at what is available to us. So one of the best part of the Indian civilization is very interesting because we have always invoked the power of the sun. We know the Surya Namaskara thing, and at the end of the day, we have always invoked and understood the power of the universe. And if you see civilizations also, you see the establishment of civilizations happened across I would say areas where rivers and water resources were plenty. Nile is a great example in the old civilization. The Mesopotamian civilization, another great example. The Indus Valley is another great example. So I think again the water is your resource. So our rivers and our ocean resources are going to basically drive the future. And then we also see that we have also areas like nuclear, which incidentally there's a lot of debate in the world. But I on my side, I see nuclear is the renewable energy. So we have to do justice to very complex areas. The task of the jury is not easy. We had doyens like Yogendra Prasad, and we are very lucky to have him as an advisor this year for the jury meeting, And he's a man who needs no introduction. He is, I would say, de facto, the father of the Indian hydropower growth in the modern times. And he's been a constructive critic of things that are happening, and so we need to bring back hydropower to a different stage of affairs. So we had people like him. Today we don't have two people. Dr. Prakasham Tata, he works a lot in Andhra Pradesh now in the social issues, but he's sitting in the United States, the man who designed the wastewater management systems of Texas and Illinois, and who is a figure. He's also part of this jury. We don't have today Dr. Hridesh Khanna, who is also sitting in Germany, who is responsible for our decentralized distributed power area, and also seeing technology and interface with common public happens in the long run. So the jury panel is fantastic. We have Kailash Bihari Dubey, and he's absolutely a stalwart, who was director of projects of NTPC. We have T.C. Arora ji, who spent about 3 decades with Toshiba India, and a fantastic man. I know him not only as a friend, but as a man who literally understands engineering and the growth of technology, as a stalwart in his own rights, fantastic. A man who went from conventional and did solar in this country. So we are indebted to see project management and other things come up because of people like him, Then, of course, I mentioned Hetal also. Hetal is a man who's been working very closely with me in Gujarat, and you can see Gujarat has been appreciated at the Inertia Awards for many, many years. So all of this is there. And then we also have DK Jain. Today he's not here, but DK Jain, former director technical NTPC, He works for another group, NSL, in Hyderabad, and he's another great gentleman who has contributed a lot to the growth of the NTPC organization. So I tell you that jury has been stalwarts. These people, we have S.C. Sharma. He was the former president at Jindal, and he also was the man who built TERI. He did a lot of work in TERI. So he's also part of a jury. So I can go on and on, but I tell you, we have an excellent jury panel, and I'm very thankful to them that we could bring it to this day, that we could reward 40 excellent people, both from the private and public sector, as well as individual excellence and power personas. And I'm very happy to have all of you. So before we start anything, I think we must go to the ceremonial lighting of the lamp, and for which may I request first, may I have Ms. Rita Singh, may I have Sri Rakesh Shah, President of Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Please give him a big hand. A state that has shown the way in our sector to rest of the country. May I request Rakesh Shah. Then the next, may I request Sri Yogendra Prasad to please come for lighting of the lamp. Hetal must join for lighting of the lamp, please. May I request T.C. Arora to join for lighting of the lamp. T.C. Arora ji. May I request my another colleague P.V.S.N. Murthy. I didn't mention about him. He's another jury member who has been there since the beginning and inception. P.V.S.N. Murthy to join for the lighting of the lamp. May I request P.P. Reddy Saab to please come and join us for lighting of the lamp, sir. May I request P. Okada-san to please join us for lighting of the lamp. May I request, it is not my day, my friend. May I request A.B. Agarwal, Chairman, Bhakra Bias Management Board, to please come and join us in making this auspicious. May I request Rajesh Agarwal, BS Group, to please join, sir. Please join, sir. May I request Kailash Bihari Dubey, wherever he is. Please come, sir. I think that's fine, we start. I want a lot of energy in the claps. Let us empower India. Let us empower this great country. This is our moment, I tell you. The next 5 years is the transformation. And I don't call it the tipping point. The economy is in transition. I am not seeing energy, sir. The clap has to be, the power sector must be powerful right at the beginning. If anything is left, please let me know. We still have people out there who must light the lamp today, the lamp of progress. The lamp of a great future for our energy and power sector in India. The one that will drive the Indian economy to new heights. Are you ready, sir? It must be done, sir. Ready, sir? It will be really good to have you, sir. Thank you, everybody. So today we declare this 8th Inertia Awards 2014 function open. Yeah, now I would request first Prasad Saab, our most senior most man, to please come and take the dais first, sir. Please give him a big hand. Yogendra Prasad was the former chairman NHPC, and he was also the former vice president of the International Hydro Association, and also headed the Indian National Hydro Association for several years. A man who's transformed in his days the hydro sector. Of course, it's right now we need a lot of work to be done there, a lot of things to be done, and Prasad Saab will tell you, he has his 10-15 minutes to tell you what happened to the country's energy sectors and power sector as a whole. The next one, I request Rakesh Shah to please come over, sir. Please give him a big hand. President of Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Rakesh Shah Saab. May I welcome Rita Singh ji, Chairman and Managing Director, Chairperson and Managing Director of MESCO Group. Right on the dais, ma'am. I want this clap to be more powerful. We need an endogenous growth model for the Indian economy. And MESCO has been a leader in mining and resource mobilization in the country. Thank you, Rita Singh ji, for being here today and for encouraging all our awardees. Today is a very important day for women also, because we'll come to know when we declare those awards. We have 40 awards, and I would request your time and effort for the whole award function, ma'am. May I request my friend Hetal to join? Where is Hetal? See, I just spoke to Tarun Kapoor ji. He says he will come in between and join us. And as far as our presiding guest of honor, Darshana Jardosh, the Honorable Member of Parliament, and she's also the head of the women's wing of the BJP. She will join us any moment because they are involved in voting. And I will give you a brief on the energy sector that happened and give you an input on what is going to happen. You know, what's right now happening to the whole world. It's not only India. See, basically what's happening is today, we have come to absolutely a threshold in the global situation. A threshold where without the energy resource, we are not going to have any development. And the fight is that you see, if you look at the energy train driving, 30% of the energy consumption goes towards the transportation sector, and 70% goes through what we call the industrial, the commercial, the domestic, the agricultural, the government, and the organizational, and what moves the economy and the business. That part of it consumes 70% of the energy, which we call electricity, right? And if you look at electricity, basically is a component which is essential to drive those economic agendas, whether it's manufacturing, whether it is projects, whether it's running our entire power plants and feeding to the economy, whether we want to, even my friends from NewsX are here, the channel that is, along with us today, covering all this. You know, the channels will not operate, the TV channels will not operate without electricity. I and you will not sit here without electricity. We are very thankful that we have it. But the fight is exactly that, you know, because there is a skewed or a model of development where we see that majority of the world, a large population is deprived. You know, deprived of energy access or power access or electricity access, and that is a challenge. But on the flip side of that argument is, if you see the global pie chart, the predominant guzzlers of electricity are the industrial growth and the modernization that's happening. In fact, there is a report from World Bank and also IMF that by 2022, almost 60% of the global economy will look like urban, right? So there is a lot of urbanization happening. From being a rural economy, we are shifting to an urban base. But in spite of that, if we take that figure, let's discount it and say 50%. 50% of the world will live in cities. Still, we need a very large 50%, which will be in the rural, semi-rural, and economy that will be struggling to access electricity and energy resources. So now this is a challenge for all planners and politicians worldwide, and also for operators worldwide, because we have the business-centric people who are in the technology area, people who are in the project area, people who want to build this up. The challenge is for both of them and the politicians of the world, and also for the businesses of the world, because how do you bring this other 50% onto an inclusive growth model? You know, and this is a challenge for not only for India, but also all the world. And we will see Africa struggling with that. And in this situation, the other side of the story is what is developing in the Middle East. I don't want to go political today, but then the geopolitics tells you that there is, again, the whole issue is energy. You know, the fight is for energy. And if I look at, I don't fear from saying that, or I don't want to shy away from, on the India-China thing, you know, these are massive sibling rivalry, you know. China has made everything, and they have 1,200 gigawatt on the grid, and we have something like 250 gigawatts, so a lot of path to traverse. But the hard reality is this jump India will make from a $2 trillion economy with a very powerful leadership of Modi ji and the new change in regime and what we are seeing the movement. I see this at least doubling, the GDP at least doubling in quick time, you know, 5 years. So 4 to 5 trillion is what we are looking at in 2020 if we give the chance for the flip, because we are a democracy. Unlike the China where they can make a quick decision, in India we have to convince people and it takes a little bit more time. So I give 2 more years, 2022. So Abul Kalam's 2020 and our 2022, that's just the flip over a little bit, nothing more and nothing less. So we will see in India as well a doubling of the GDP from the current 2 trillion to about 4 to 5 trillion US dollar. And I can assure you that that will not happen unless and until we literally double our capacity index from 250 gigawatt right now to roughly 500 to 600 gigawatt. And I hear the government is even gung-ho, they're saying we'll try 800, in quick time. So if, of course, trying is fine, but I will be very happy if they go to 500, 600. That is sufficient to move the Indian economy at 7 to 8% growth rate. Like we had a theory. We said, and we wrote this to Manmohan Singh ji about 3 years back, in 2012, in fact 2 years back. And my paper said that if you add 25 to 30 gigawatt per annum, then you will drive the GDP of the country by roughly 7 to 8%. And if you don't achieve that, because that's what has happened, we have achieved only 10 to 15 gigawatt per annum. In fact, 15 is not still coming. It's only this year that we have done something fantastic. We have come in this calendar to 25 gigawatt capacity addition. Although we failed in hydro, we failed in so many issues. Of course, we can say there's a spillover, there's an addition of the past, but at least management-wise, the country added 25 gigawatt in a calendar year. That is a good start. That shows that we will come from a 4 to 5% growth rate to a 7%, 8% possibility exists. Because if we sustain this in the next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, for the next 4 or 5 years, I can assure you that we are there. We're 100% there. We're going quickly towards that. So I am actually saying that instead of doing 25-30, first 2 years we do 25-30, we up the ante to 50 gigawatt per annum. That's what I'm saying, to double the growth and capacity here. And that can be only done if there is a huge role for renewable energy. While we will have the growth of the thermal power for sure, we cannot neglect it. India needs all. But I think quick growth of the renewable energy is important. And if you had seen the government plan, in fact it was Inertia and our report, REPA report, which said 50 gigawatt solar by 2022 minimum as the national solar mission. You're seeing right now they have embraced this capacity. And they're saying not 50, they'll try 100, because this government is aggressive in its movement towards the solar. So I'm very happy. So if they move towards the 100 model by 2000, the time frame is anywhere between 2022 to 2027 or 2025, let us say. So if that is achieved, we have a large capacity of solar on the grid. So today there are a lot of awardees, and we have also solar awardees, very important ones in the business. And I think this has all happened because the country tried to take seriously certain issues. On the issues of thermal power, we are stuck because we cannot hide, because the coal issues, especially what has happened with the coal sector and the coal scam and all that. Okay, people call it a scam and everything, but predominantly it's unstructured process, unstructured deals, okay, things happening too quickly, and they have destroyed. And also Prasad Saab is there to throw light on the hydro. Hydro, very, very pathetic. We added 798 megawatt in the last calendar, and while I'm saying we added 25 gigawatt in a calendar year, hydro we did horribly bad. It was only 798. So that is something that Prasad Saab will also throw light on what happens, And his favorite topic for sure, he will explain to you why frequency and quality of power is so critical. That's also important. And other than this, I feel, fundamentally what mistake we are making is, we're not seeing the picture in a very holistic way in the country. See, we are transporting a lot of coal-based power from remote areas into hinterlands. I have seen, even it has happened that even coal is transported to states like Maharashtra all the way from Jharkhand, when you can do it from much shorter distances. Then there are challenges of the railways, because wagons are not available, and the railway infrastructure itself does not allow expansion of sending coal to the power plants, and this is another area of challenge. The third area of challenge is the Indian coal itself, because Indian coal is very high in ash content. We normally say it's 38 to 40% ash content, but we have seen coal having 58% ash content, and their calorific value is about 3,400 to 3,600. Whereas if you look at the Australian coal, calorific value close to a 5,800 to 6,000 kilocalories per kilogram. So the energy content of the coal is the issue. And so now the government has come to the idea that without coal washeries, we can't do. So again, those bottlenecks will exist. Keeping all of them, I have only one fundamental question for our coal operators. The country has 295 to 300 billion tons of coal. And what is it that we are producing? 650 million tons. That's what we have reached. This is no good. This is not a race. You're running a 100 meters race in 25 seconds. Is no good. You have to do it below 10 seconds, my friends. So therefore, we must up the ante to make more coal here. We can't look at only the Australian coal and the Indonesian coal. Indonesian coal can't be used. If my friend T.C. Aroraji is here, he will tell why I am saying that, because it's very difficult to handle this particular coal. It's you have to remove the moisture and you have to dehydrate it to such an extent that you'll expend more energy in doing that than using the coal itself. So and then you need the coal from Mozambique. You have to come across the sea. You have to handle the world transportation issues, and you will have to also handle the pirates on the sea. I can assure you that. So this is the situation to handle coal. It can't move from such a large distance. And the Americans have a lot of coal. They have got the whole of Kentucky, mountains of coal lying there. But their own environmental laws will not allow that coal to come. And that will get stuck. And that high calorific value coal will probably not be used for quite some time unless US starts thinking differently on using those resources, So, and maybe giving it to countries like us, I want to see. And the worst part is, I met when the Pakistani ambassador, Abdul Basit, came first in Mumbai. I told him to leave Kashmir. I told him, you forget about Kashmir. What you do is, you sell coal to India. Because the nearest desert, the Thar Parker, has got 185 billion tons of coal. And for most of the people are knowledgeable here, Thar Parker borders 2 states of India. One state is Rajasthan, the huge one, the Thar Desert, and the other one is Gujarat. And if you use even some fraction of the quantity of coal, let's say 1 or 2 billion tons, I tell you, that country, instead of struggling, will become the richest economy. So why they should be interested in Kashmir? I think they are foolish. They're wasting their time. They should be looking at how to involve with India on trade and find why we are buying coal from anywhere else. We can use that coal, and we have technology, we have everything here. So I think the whole economics has to be twisted upside down in understanding, because that is the only next biggest deposit after India. India has 295 billion tons and Pakistan has 185 billion tons, of which 184 billion tons are lying right there in the Thar Parker, Sindh area of Pakistan, the Sindh region, So I don't know why we countries can't cooperate. We are so stupid, I'm saying for them it's just foolish to just engage in other dialogues, and other I would say showmanship, and I would say useless politics, if you ask me. They should be more interested in the politics of getting India to get their energy content out there. So this is another great thought, And we wrote a story in Inertia actually on this in April 2014, and I talked to him, made it official, and but I saw that the gentleman Abdul Basit did not look at that. He went and met the Hurriyat. That was what important was. Unfortunately, I discussed a little politics here. Then next comes down to the energy train. See, we are doing a lot of work in Bhutan. We expanded our hydropower cooperation, and it's one of the finest corporations in the world. Today we are importing 1480 megawatt of hydropower from Bhutan, and we have a model to build 10 gigawatt of hydropower exportation from Bhutan. And that will make Bhutanese economy the richest in South Asia, in fact. Their GDP, their per capita incomes will be the highest in this region if that entire electricity comes to India. And we are on the track. And I hope that this doesn't get scuttled in other politics, because there are some structural issues in that, and it will come. And I think even Nepal will cooperate. So that is why I think it's very interesting to hear Narendra Modi ji talking about the South Asian region grid. And I wrote this article several years back in the Indian Express of a regional grid for South Asia. So it will become a reality, SARG, which we call the South Asian Region Grid. That means electricity transport will become a reality. But for this, the Indian grid is reality. At least nationally we are connected. But I know that Prasad Sir will put the challenges up of frequency and what we don't have at this point of time. Which definitely right, because predominantly we have base loads. We don't have peaking power stations. Fundamentally, if you look at hydro and gas, these only 2 areas are peaking power. Look at our situation. 28 gigawatt of gas-based power is just lying idle in this country, assets. Including, I hear, Dabhol was operating less than 200 megawatt because of want of gas. Oh, that is horrible. No, the largest power plant is Dabhol in Maharashtra, which was the erstwhile Enron, with all its controversies. We spent 20,000 crores, that is about $4 billion US to build that plant, finally. And if we had not played politics, the cost would have been half, right? And we still would be using gas-based power. But what we did to Dabhol, what is happening to Uran or any other gas-based station is horrific, because you're keeping your assets idle and you don't have the peaking power which can actually do the peak shaving in your urban centers. So today we're seeing load shedding coming because of that. Huge crisis, and frequency management is becoming a major issue. I will not talk on this more. It will be Yogendra Prasad only who has to talk about this. Then, seeing all of this, the flip side of the argument, if I would say, a policy maker, people are talking of free power and all these things. I said, why do we want to talk? If we had just identified 20 to 30 gigawatt as a one-time physical investment for rural economy of India, I'm telling you that all the villages would have been electrified. So, and then we say, we will not give you free power, we'll train you under the NREGA, National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, to be assemblers and repairers of solar. And then every household gets at least 7 to 8 hours of electricity. And then they have biogas. We should have integrated through microgrids. All this, I will tell you, the village economy of India would have done wonders. I'm giving this idea, people are there to take up. All the brilliant guys are here, all the powerful fellows are here. They must take this and do it under the CSR or any other model. Let us build this country. Because they don't need as much electricity. Out of the 250 gigawatt, when we did a research, we found that barely 25 to 30 gigawatt is used by the rural economy of India, where 60% of our population is living. So we are denying access to electricity in a very stupid way, because they don't need your grid-based power. They need decentralized development. They need electricity right in instant, which you can deliver quickly. And we can wait for disruptive technologies, fine. But I think we can also move quickly towards conventional. We can at least put decentralized solar and I would say biogas, for example. I'll give you a figure which is going to be damning for all of us. India is the highest producer of milk in the world. And I tell you, India's cattle population is 1 billion. My friends, 1.25 billion people, 1 billion cattle. Look at that. 1 billion cattle, my God, I look at methane. Massive capacities of methane and biomethanization. My God, my rural economy will be lighted. We will be all in dark and they will be enjoying. Why don't you empower them, my friends? What is stopping you from doing this? I don't think it needs rocket science for any policy maker to look at this issue. So this is there. So solar, and I would say this gobar gas, which we call, gobar is the cow dung, gobar gas based power, and integrate it as a hybrid. The villages don't need you. And the third factor in this is transportation. One of my very good friend, a guy's name I want to take here, is Basavaraj Birajdar. He's an MTech from IIT, and he's been devastated in Maharashtra because he supported the Jatropha farmers. Okay, because the hard reality is some political forces, I'm sorry, in this function I don't want to name, otherwise I would have named very easily. Okay, this is a good function, so but I will talk about it. Is that sugar cane, we want to take out all the ethanol out of it and we want to do blending. It's the most silliest argument, because in Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh and even Madhya Pradesh, we have Jatropha crop and good quality. If you do research on this, people are doing already, you can get the biodiesel of the best quality. And I tell you, my friend runs an Indica car, which is an Indian car, right? It was called Indian car, so it became Indica of the Tatas. The Indian car of V2005 runs 100% on biodiesel, and he is able to achieve speeds of 60 kilometers per hour. He has not done any modification on engine, because we are all engineers, we understand it. Because what is Jatropha extract, the biodiesel? Practically it is a solvent. And solvent is an auto lubricant. When it goes into your piston, it takes the film on the piston and gets into the cylinder. It's an auto lubricant. You don't even need lubrication. And then carbon emissions are just negligible. In fact, they are not there many times. And this he has driven and driven and driven. I don't want to name the company. He went to the company which gave the engine. They refused to help him. They said no, because they are very worried that they have to change all their designs. So I am looking at, see, our corporate world, whether it's India or abroad, we are all one. There is no difference whether it's a Japanese company or a German company or an Indian company. We are all one on technology access. And if we don't think practically of helping our people, we only look at only our interest rather than expanding, then we are stupid, we're not looking at the next thing. And what has happened to that Jatrofa thing today? It is dead under some carpet. It was the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy which should have promoted this, but it became a major political issue. In Maharashtra, it was also, I want to also give you an angle of Maharashtra. Maharashtra, the sugarcane farmers are very rich. They're very powerful. They belong to one caste also, which is the Maratha caste, which I think some of my foreigner friends will not understand this. But I want to tell you that they're very powerful. They're landlords. They were warriors in the past, a strong caste. And what is happening? Jatrofa grows in barren land. So these barren land farmers, if they grow Jatrofa and they get the biodiesel sold at 30 to 40 rupees a liter, those guys will become rich. So the whole thing is also that kind of politics, So allow the ethanol, which is the sugar industry, which pushes ethanol and it pushes blending, whereas Jatrofa does not put blending, it says use it. I wanted to do a median for both of them without a fight. What is the median? In the case of this, don't use the Jatrofa extract, the biodiesel, for basically running your vehicles. Use it for directly producing power, my friends. Biodiesel based power. Modify your engines. We have the best technology from Japan and Germany in reciprocating engines. And they can operate the Jatrofa bio-extract and design engines which can do this, And when they do this with solar again is a hybrid. So I do not know. This country could be the biggest, I would say, powerhouse of new research and direction to the electricity and energy sector of the world. And if from this, what I have told, if a few people wake up and start running for it, I tell you, you'll make billions also in business, because it makes business sense to help the poor. Because I tell you also the Indian economy. There is a book called India Uninc. The spelling is UNINC. I have not appreciated books for many years because obviously we have known too much. But this is a book, I fell in love with it on the day one. And I gifted it in Gujarat to many people. This is written by R. Vaidyanathan, professor who teaches strategic management and other areas and also rural economy in IIM Bangalore. This book is out of print many times. But my friends, please catch hold of this book. It gives you page by page, moment by moment, it proves in this country that 85% of India's national GDP is driven by an idea called small and medium enterprises. Further, it says 45% of the GDP is actually factored by idea called proprietorship companies and partnership firms. And how much the stock market based companies contribute? They barely contribute. I'm telling you, I'm sorry to say that our big daddies only contribute about 8 to 10% of the GDP by that calculation. And the biggest contributor, I'm very happy to say, is the PSU. 22% of the GDP is the public sector enterprises. So there is an overlap in this, of course, and with the small and medium enterprise together, because one is the nominal GDP and the other is the real-time GDP. So when you look at those combinations, the idea is public sector, the idea is small and medium enterprise business, and when in India we define small, we are defining by the value of the capital investment. So somebody makes a $2 billion turnover, will still be small because the capital investment is low. For example, I think an Infosys will basically qualify from the past as a small and medium enterprises. So we have to look at this definition and expand and think what it means. Capital asset investment where there is low, and services economy will be predominantly that. Plus, there are many areas. I know about a company which actually helped ISRO from a remote corner of Thana district in Maharashtra. Company is only 12 crores, but they make a very special component for the launch pad of the satellite. So now, those guys will grow slowly, but they're doing unique work. And there are thousands of them, like people who supply to the Navy in India. The Navy has to expand. It has to find out ways and means of engaging these people. So when they do the spare parts and other things, they do make small turnovers, but there are many number of people who are suppliers who keep the Navy on and moving. So defense sector is another area which will be connected with energy in a big way. I consider defense, marine, and energy as a big trend, because we are coming up with a defense and marine publication in the month of Jan. Ethel and me are working on that. So I gave you a few ideas. My point is, let us look decentralized as well. I'm not saying we go out of the grid. We continue to use the grid. Grid is basically balanced, but we need to also look at decentralized, because grid can only take as much as it can. Grid can only do as much as it can, but we need to also look at decentralized. We need to look at captive. We need to look at what we have missed. We need to look at these alternatives like Jatrofa, Like I talked about the cow dung based power. The first cow dung based power plant we gave award 2 years back in 2012 here at this place, and that is operating 1.6 megawatt at Jabalpur using an MTU, on-site energy engines, and working beautifully. Of course, there is bad maintenance of the user. That's fine, but the technology has stood very well and it's delivering electricity. And the gentleman has got some 10,000 bovine, basically, and therefore I am saying not only cow, entire bovine waste. When I say bovine, it includes all horses, pigs, everything. You can look at a massive bovine waste-based generation model, while you use other waste management and other waste management resources. And last but not the least, before I call Yogendra Prasad, is your municipal corporations. This country has got a new idea called the Clean India campaign, the Swachh Bharat, right? It is a wonderful campaign, right? But I tell you, there is a one misfit in this, That is our municipal corporation. You and me will go and clean the street. A Shah Rukh Khan will go and take a opportunity, or anybody else, I'm not naming him, but anybody would go and take a opportunity. Maybe they will clean for 5 hours also. But the real time development of this will only happen if we find out the grassroots tier of democracy called the municipal corporation, where we have elected representatives called the corporators, who are the municipal councillors, acting to clean up our cities. Because they are the city managers. And our city managers have miserably failed. I give you an example of Maharashtra with a horrible model. We have 7 municipal corporations. That is BMC, Thana Municipal Corporation, Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation, and some of them are so rich, 4 of them can invest 5 times into Delhi Municipal Corporation. They are so rich. I tell you, the collections is so large. But look at the waste that we are producing. A Bombay Municipal Corporation, which is now called the Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation, generates waste equivalent to 1 Wankhede stadium every day. And I must tell you that every Indian, if he wants to realize what is happening to him or her, please make a trip to the waste dumps. See what's happening there. And I tell you, if the sea rises in this country, in the great city of Mumbai, I pray every day it should not happen. Only prayer I offer is it should not happen. No other prayer I do. Because if it rises by 4 meters, it will take all the debris, it will stock into your residences, and I can tell you Mumbai can be cleaned up 100 years, we cannot return back to that city. This is the disaster we are waiting for things to happen. And I am not only talking about India. If people understand me, every other city in the world needs to look at what it is doing with its waste. So waste, we are talking of segregation, we are in discussion, we are in semantics, I tell you. We need to find advanced technology like plasma ignition of the waste, transforming the whole thing in a very different way. Because you can generate the calorific value if you are able to give a high temperature ignition, and ignition without emission. So this is a challenge, major challenge. It needs development of material science, the way we have done the ultra mega supercritical. We are going towards high temperature in both the turbines and the boilers, and we are able to handle high temperature steam. Same way here also, we need to look at a way to handle higher temperature, better material and all that. Technology has to play a major role. Technology is transformer. I remember that if we don't have technology, we do nothing. For example, in India, we say roti kapda makan. That means we said food, kapda clothing, makan building, right? Ghar. So what we called it? We called it shelter. Unbelievable. I don't know why we ever named it shelter. This is horrific. You say you want food, so food security comes. Clothes, the security to look good and be decent. That comes in. Comes the third part, which is very important. That's the first part. Actually, the house. This is a sector worth understanding, my friends. Every other sector in the country, we saw technology playing a role. For example, communication, from getting a telephone long time back in India, where we had to wait for years for our lines. I don't want to name. Some of the government companies were doing that, but now they're very efficient. I got a BSNL phone so quickly, now with 3G, doing better than Airtel and other things, That's fine today. That's the way. I'm a fan of BSNL. If they want to do, they can devastate everybody. But sometimes they are lethargic. They don't know what they are, or they just don't care. So maybe the attitude has to change. But they're giving good service. But that phone, it took a long time. And then what happened? Technology played a role. I have kept my German friend's phone from Nokia, a big one. I kept it at my home because someday I will be able to fetch some good money for how it looked like, first cell phone. It will only operate for half an hour in a year. It was massive. and you had a stump in which you had to put it, and it used to charge, and every time you had to go back with the plug, I kept it with me, how it looked, so that many years later we will know how a cell phone looks. Now we're coming to palm tops, we are trying to watch everything. So what we are doing, and Colonel Khera is here, we keep talking about this, it's the TMT revolution. I call it the technology, media and telecommunications. The three are coming together to play a major role. So what this did is, it brought communication at the cheapest cost. Now people are spending more on communication than they're spending on the food. Unbelievable. Okay, the same India is, and it's a poor India which is going to that, which you call poor India. It's not poor India, it's a very aspirational India, I always call it. It has aspirations, you can't murder those aspirations. You have to allow that to grow, allow them to come forward. And second part is clothing. In Mumbai or Delhi, I can get a cotton shirt, a good one, I tell you. I have places I know, 250 bucks. And yet you can get a 15,000 rupees cotton shirt also. So that is the massive range of cotton shirting. This happened. But what about housing? People are talking, oh my God, 10 million rupees, 20 million rupees, 30 million rupees. I can assure you that an average India will not be able to buy, and this is true for average Singaporean. I was talking to a man who was driving the taxi. I said, when will you buy a house? He said, sir, I need some 40 million stuff, equivalent of ours, 40, 50 million to buy a house. So, roti mein de diya, kapda de diya, makan nahi aayega. Why? Answer lies there in technology. Clothing, we brought technology, mass production. Communication, including technology, laptops, they're costing very low. But housing costing more. Why? We're making, I'm sorry ma'am, you're there in the steel business, but we are doing the same stuff in steel for the last 40 years. With little, thoda, idhar, udhar, little bit of here and little bit of their business. And as far as we are producing cement, I'm sorry, pathetic. We are only selling our assets here and there, restructuring, merging, and the whole European Union and even the Asian economy will be struggling because these monopolies to nahi create ho raha hai. Are they not creating some monopolies to up the pricing? So, never, unless until we have a technological base and new building material research and energy efficiency in buildings, very important, energy plays a crucial role in those building design. Unless we think new, we will not give people what I call as dwellings, not shelter. So we have to change that entire psychology. No shelter business. We need to give dwellings to our people. And I think it is the same everywhere for the relative poor. Even Japan will have the same thing. Germany, maybe they don't have poor, but they have the middle class, the poor middle class. They have to do it. Everywhere we have to look at technology playing a role in building construction. And we cannot have this model which the construction magnates, they just look at how they can sell the same thing over and over again, make big money, create non-performing assets in the banks, and then our guys, in India, I tell you, housing loans, they have destroyed the bankers because bankers are not giving loans easily now. When HDFC started, I remember Mr. Parekh started, Deepak Parekh's father, he was dissuaded from getting into the housing finance business. But his wisdom said, a person living in a house, he values himself and his pride, izzat. So anybody coming to his door or her door is not good. So they will repay. And he was right. And today we have so many housing finance companies, so many of them. But you look at the process of evaluation. I can assure you they want to give the houses to only those people who already have houses. They want to give a car to only people who already have a car. So that will not work. And this is the model we have, this is a very, very stupid model we are following. We are not empowering new people. So I hope Modi ji's this banking act where he said he will get a bank account for everybody and then ensure that insurance is put and proper targeting of this happens. So I think the bankers start looking at, because they are creating more non-performing assets with the industrialists. I'm sorry to say that. And they have very less non-performing assets in the housing finance sector. Average housing finance sector, the dead loans or non-repayable loans are less than 18%. Some places they are less than 10%. So it is a good, and when you kill housing, you kill construction, you definitely kill cement and steel. It is not road construction, it is housing, mass housing. This country needs housing for, I tell you, today we have 1.2 billion people population. If average family size is 5, then you divide it by that much. That means you need at least to make India powerful, or make it, get housing or dwellings to everybody, which is the target of this government by 2022, then you need at least 250 million houses. See what is the size I'm talking. 250 million houses, are we ready for it? We are only talking, oh, some DDA gives some house at 25,000 and some lottery. You know, Maharashtra, MADA, some stupid leaking floor, leaking top houses, only some 30,000, 50,000. This will not suffice. You need to build massive. How do we do that? How do you bring the investment? How do you come? I can tell you the whole world with you. This is the market. Because money begets money. Environment begets currency. We have to provide a clean environment, an environment where the investor knows his investment or her investment not going dead, an environment where they say the government, the inspector Raj will not come on them, and we have to be transparent. And I'm sorry, this was the most honest country in the world many years back. It must come back to a principle of honesty. It must be very honest and transparent in what it does. It must not, see what happens, we are very worried that we'll be overwhelmed by some XYZ. That is a weak economic thinking. Nobody can overwhelm anybody. This is only symbiotic model, and I think larger picture is we are Asians, not Indians. And if Asians have to look at themselves, then Asians are one family. And I think Asia can drive your wealth. You don't have to look at any other continent to get your money. And you're right within Asia. So we have the Japans, the Koreas, the Malaysias, and all of us can cooperate together to make a better India, a better Malaysia, a far better Japan, a far better Korea. And I will be happy if China leaves its position of belligerence. They just have to get out of that. And they are friendly. And we also need them, for sure. And they need us very badly. I can assure you that. Our intellectual capital is needed by them badly, which they understand, but don't want to accept it. So somewhere down the line, if all of us become economic forces, not political forces as such, but of course, economics is also politics. That is what the current thing has shown to us. The government that came to power is because Indians wanted development. It was not a BJP versus Congress or anything. It was simply that people were fed up with everything. They're fed up with paralysis in governance. They wanted some change. They wanted to try something where things start happening. At least the mood is created now, my friends. And I'm assuring you that if all of us together, because it's not possible for one leader or a few leaders to do it. It is only possible if all Indians get together and support such a mood. And a great opportunity lies in this idea. Today's gathering, I tell you, maybe this gathering is much smaller than a mass meeting, but this is the most powerful gathering in the country. If you seriously look at your balance sheets, so many of these PSUs who are here, and many of the people who have come here, including the private sector, look at yourself. You're so powerful, you probably can do much more than what you are even thinking. So I think we need to look inwards. At the same time, we need to make India investment friendly for any investor globally. We must play a level playing game must be played. We must not be worried, We were very worried with the Chinese, some time back. But then recently, I told the government that we should not worry about the anti-dumping duty in the case of solar. I'm very happy that the current government accepted our position. Because if we had put an anti-dumping duty, I can tell you that we would have created a model of, I would say, non-competition. Whereas solar costs have come down because we already have 2,000 megawatt of installed capacity for modules in this country. But that is not the case in the case of thermal, because thermal there is a big problem. I met a company called Yantai. Yantai is a major operator in China. This was circa 2011. Yantai Power operated in that time 65,000 megawatt in China. It was one of the top 5 operators. Those guys had come for some plasma ignition system. Bangalore was the meeting. There was an interpreter. And one of my friends wanted to take the dealership or distributorship for India for the plasma ignition system. But when I talked about the power plant, throughout the presentation, they were very fair, nice people. They told the truth to me. None of the power plant operated by Yantai had more than 65% PLF. Average PLF was 58%. That means these plants were not operating at optimal at all. I asked them why. They said that is the optimal, that is the way because we cannot go beyond that. So I understood that day that NTPC is a far superior operator in the world and one of the finest operators. 2011 I understood this. Not only that, we were shouting from the top of the roof, we wrote articles that the Chinese turbines which were coming into India did not have the capability of having the heat rate which the CA, Central Electricity Authority, had stipulated, which is 1860 kilocalories per kilogram for calling it supercritical. Of course, the pressure and temperature and all those will come into picture. I don't want to complicate the topic. But then it never came. Everywhere it was tested, and we had already given the figures ourselves in the magazine. 1925, 1920 kilocalories per kilogram. That means in the paper everybody has signed this is supercritical, but it is actually subcritical. So the Chinese thing that is coming into India is 100% subcritical. And I tell you, Prasad Saab will talk about the electricity and the short circuit ratio. I will not talk about it. You are buying junk. If you buy this junk, 5 to 7 years this asset is dead. And this is going to rock all our banks, I can assure you. And our friends at the top who think they can do anything, and they are the top businessmen, for God's sake, listen to my engineering logic. You are buying muck instead of gold. And when you run, I tell you, there will no other way. The government of India will have to put an arrest warrant on you for doing this. They will be forced. So be careful. Don't go for this. There is already 6 manufacturers, joint venture in this country, and all their factories are lying dead, because you call them, and it is including BHL. I'm not only talking about, our friends from Japan, or, there's Mitsubishi joint venture with L&T. There is Toshiba, JSW joint venture, fantastic technology. I tell you, world's best, if you ask me. All that is there. BHL is there. It expanded to 20,000 megawatt. What are you doing? You don't want to place orders on them. You want all this to be still imported. And that is a crime. That is an open crime committed. So there I want some idea called the low technology ADD. Why I call it low technology? Because they don't have the heat rate. So you have all these plants, do an analysis, go there, take their heat rates. If the investors are lying, please catch hold of their throat. Test the plant yourself, send some honest people. And I tell you, Pandora's box will break out. And I tell you, all those assets are just useless assets. They're not going to come up. And unfortunately, I've been proven right every time I spoke like this, in the past. And it comes very late, It comes very late. Now everybody says CA gives the report later on. And it doesn't work later on, You cannot cry over spilt milk. You have to nip it in the bud. So while we have an award here, I'm happy that we have the best guys here. I wanted to sound the warning signals when I talked, A lot has to be done. This sector needs, electric sector, the infrastructure sector needs, power sector needs a lot of push, a lot of sound thinking, a lot of bold decisions, And I'm very happy to say, Modi ji did very sound decision in Gujarat. For God's sake, look at what he did over there. Just start questioning every moment, But yes, we must question the right things, no doubt about it. But just don't say, bhai, itne kam time mein ho jayega. You want quickly everything to come, turn around. It's not going to happen so quickly. It's in a mess. It is in a mess for years together, In fact, I would say 15 years of mess, not even 10 years, Because I remember Vajpayee ji tried to do something. He wanted to network the rivers. That never happened. That was discussed in the parliament, networking of rivers, and it remained. And Prasad Saab gave that report. Yogendra Prasad Saab. He was the man who told that we must do this. But that never happened. And I hope that we look at this kind of models, And with this, I now request Prasad Saab to give a 15 minutes talk on where we must go, sir, according to you. We have a man who has got tremendous wisdom. He has seen everything, and we must hear him. Yogendra Prasad ji, please give him a big hand, please.
Dear friends, I am happy to be here with all of you. Again, this award ceremony. Now, Iyer Sahib had told me to talk about some power. Just everybody knows power is prime mover for all the sector of the country. This I have tweeted to the government, and I'm sorry to say that even today I tweeted to the government that there is visible progress in other sectors, but it is quite negligible progress in power sector. Just see, power means not mean that at any frequency, any voltage. Just you have to understand one thing, that why grid code has been introduced in this country. When the power is to be supplied between the frequency of 49.9 Hertz to 50.05 Hertz. If the frequency is 50 Hertz, at that time the rate of the bulk supply power is 2 rupees per unit, and the moment it goes beyond 49.9, means generation is less than the demand. What happens? Rate goes to more than 4 rupees. Means at the distribution side, the DISCOMs have to supply the power at least at the rate of 9 rupees to 10 rupees. Then only they will come to profit. Similarly, when the frequency goes to 50.05 hertz, power is available at zero cost. Certainly this frequency has certain meaning. Now what happens? You have to understand the power sector, that whatever energy you are generating, that has to be transmitted and that has to be consumed. If this is not done, there is disaster in the system. I have advised the government that at generation side you can control the generation, but you can transmit also. Transmission line you can maintain well, but on distribution side you don't have control. 125 to 127 crores people are to use power at different times, and whenever the generation is high, frequency goes high. When generation is low, frequency goes low. So this control has to be done only through the generation side. Then comes the role of hydro, gas, thermal, nuclear. Now just see, when the frequency is high, means you need to consume more power, and at that time it is available at zero cost. Means you have to have such type of generators where you have to consume. For that comes the pumped storage schemes. And in our country, more than 94,000 megawatt pumped storage scheme has been investigated, and I am sorry to say that in spite of many reminders to our political bosses, only 4,000 megawatt has been developed till date. From our country, people go to different countries and they go and come back, but nobody make the studies why others are having the pumped storage scheme. And I have told to many political bosses, they don't understand this power sector properly. This technology has to be understood. Even today I have tweeted that fundamental know-how of the power sector is not known to the power sector. They are not understanding the fundamental issues. Similarly, when the frequency is low, what is required to be done? You have to pick up the generation faster. For that you need reservoir projects of hydro or gas power projects. We have shortage of gas, and price of gas is so high that we cannot supply power to the consumers at affordable cost. So hydro reservoir is required. Whenever frequency is high, there also reservoir projects of hydro will help, because you can reduce the generation quickly. But in thermal power plants, nuclear power plants, if you go beyond, the generation is less than 60% of the installed capacity, it is not economical, and that is not done quickly. And you cannot stop the generators every time so fast. So under these circumstances, the role of different type of generators comes. So in our country, the generation through hydro of reservoir type, pumped storage type, and gas power projects, all three are required. At present, we don't have gas at affordable cost. Under such circumstances, we have enough hydro capacity in this country. But I can say the political bosses are not taking care. They are not understanding. I have written one Twitter few days back. I have written there that you can buy anything with the help of money, but you cannot make hydro projects or any power projects within days, even by having any amount of money. So under these circumstances, it is very essential that we have to teach our political bosses that come and see what is the problem. Now, even 1 minute power interruption causes lot of damage to the various industries. Immediately, under frequencies are being operated from load dispatch center. I have written to the government, you have IB, you have many agencies, you can examine that how many interruptions are taking place in the states like Bihar, Bengal, UP. Farmer, he put to loss every time he closes the pump, when he starts the pump. Similarly in the industry, a foundry industry, if 1 minute power interrupted, you go to zero again. Then how make in India you can do? Now government is talking of digital India. But without power, how we can do? How you can operate the internet? You are saying online banking system will go. But what is the power situation? Why government is not examining in the village area? And I know that this thing cannot be done within days. It takes years. But at least initiatives are required. Even corporation like NHPC, which is a premier organization for the hydro project, it isn't finished like anything. The Manmohan Singh government, earlier they had put a finance man, though even court has opined that a technical man should be put on hydro sector. It is a very, very highly technical work. Even after retirement, now 5th year is passing, no regular CMD has been applied. Even this government has passed 6 months time, but no CMD is there. So under circumstances, things are getting damaged. After all, it is a national loss, it is not individual loss. So we have to take it very seriously the how we can improve the power sector. We have enough potential in this country. In 1952, China or India were equal in power sector and hydro generation was almost equal. Today, China has more than 280,000 megawatt of hydropower projects and India has only 40,000 in spite of best efforts. Because projects are not being sanctioned. Now suddenly policy was changed. What has happened in 1998 when Kumar Mangalam Sahib was the power minister, Vajpayee ji was the prime minister. At that time he was the one man who was having a lot of wisdom for the power sector. I make him understand, sir, unless you make hydropower projects, things will not improve. And then for the first time after 49 years of the independence, with the help of Kumar Mangalam Sahib, I got the hydro policy made in this country. For the first time, after 49 years of the... And then he gave a lot of work in the eastern region, northeastern region. In Arunachal Pradesh, we made lot of DPR for installing hydropower projects. But suddenly, after my retirement, all projects were distributed to the private sectors. Why they were distributed, God knows. And after that, none of the project, none of the one single megawatt has not been added. And then they started finishing NHPC. Then they gave power project to hydro, to NTPC. I told NTPC does thermal, hydro is a different technology. NTPC might have money, good board professionals, but technology is different. Now what is the result today? Even after 18 years, they have not been able to, I'm not considering them, but I'm telling you, they have not been able to construct single hydro projects. Even coal dam hydro project of 800 megawatt was given to NTPC for development where there is no tunnel. Tunnel is most difficult item for the hydro projects. But sorry to say that even till date it has not been commissioned. It was just started in 97. Just see the funny situation in this country. So this technology has to be understood. Political bosses have to understand that somewhere, the services of technically competent people are required. Even the USA, they have developed their all hydro first. Then they went to other things. Then in Canada, it is the only hydro project through which their entire economy is running. Brazil has 93% of the hydro projects in their country. And now in India, so many things I have given, so many informations I have given to the government, but I am sorry to say that things are not still improving. I had discussions with Suresh Prabhu Sahib, who is now railway minister. He was earlier the power minister. He knows me well. I talked to him about this thing, and I was hoping that he comes to power sector, some improvement will come, because he knows the importance of hydro, and during his period, lot of development after death of Kumar Mangalam had taken place. But anyway, I will be meeting him, I will be telling him that kindly take care for this thing also. Otherwise, finally, once the power sector fails, entire sector of the country will fail. I'm telling you. Unless you have ultra energy, you cannot improve the thing. Now, how distribution company will come to profit? Only 2 days back there was in the paper, the distribution company have lost more than 3 lakh crore in this country. We are going to do restructuring, and then their loan will be restructured to be paid in 20 years. Just tell me, if they are going to pay in 50 years, but their interest burden will go on increasing, how they can survive? They are being put to loss every day. Because whenever the frequency goes beyond 49.9, they have signed with the consumers at fixed rate, 4 rupees or 5 rupees per unit. And then their rate goes to 9 or 10. How they are going to survive? Now, regular cutting of power is also taking place. So it is going to have very, very big impact on our economy. So what happens? Government should immediately start work on hydropower with reservoir capacity, and at the same time, government should start work on the pump storage. And just I am telling you, I never talk on the theory. Just I am telling, people used to talk that hydropower projects are not getting developed because lot of rehabilitation problem, resettlement problems. But I am telling you, if you are going to do honest work, hydro projects can be developed. And this is the example of Indra Sagar project, biggest reservoir project, where 249 villages were shifted. I was CMD of NHPC. I just formed another corporation, NHDC, the joint venture of Madhya Pradesh government. Simply, I requested that Digvijay Singh was the chief minister at that time, that entire payment should be done through checks, because whatever provision government has made, if it is made payment to the people of the area, they are very, very happy, but honesty is not there. If there is a dishonesty, then you cannot do anything. There are no fight, no political cases, no court cases, and I shifted the entire villages. That project was commissioned in 3 years' time, where Harsul village with 15,000 family was also shifted within 1 year. But I tried my best in Bihar, Parpal Karo project, where only 112 villages were to be shifted. Bihar position is so bad, but people did not cooperate. Chief Minister of Bihar at that time was Lalu Prasad Yadav. He did not cooperate at all, because he was not understanding what is the power. So that is why the situation of Bihar is today worse in the country. They cannot supply 1 hour power, their own capacity, without help of the center. Now today, just I am telling you the figure, Gujarat with population of 6 crore have the installed capacity of own within the state of 24,791 megawatt, where Bihar has hardly 323 megawatt only. You can verify the facts at the website of the Ministry of Power. So how they can do that? And their plant load factor is less than 35%, all putting on loss. But their engineers and officers are doing work there. So our population of 10 crore. UP has population of more than 20 crore. They have installed capacity of their own only 9,000 megawatt, and that too with plant load factor of less than 40%, means effective capacity of hardly 4,000. So how people are talking, the political leaders, that I will do that thing, I will do the, from where they will bring the money? They are buying power from the central government, national grid, paying lot of money of the development to the power sector, and finally what is happening? They are losing other development work of the states. Now here in Delhi, they were voting 2 years back, 1 year back, and they were told that Chief Minister candidate tells, I will provide power in 50% cost. What does it mean? He cannot decide the rate. Rate of the power sale is decided by the regulatory commission. Now he will pay, he will provide subsidy only. He will pay from the development fund of the state. Then what about the other development of the state? Actually, what is happening in our country, the real problem is the problem of electricity as well as that of education. People are not understanding the fundamentals. I have tweeted, and many times I have written on this, that any other adverse opinion, if somebody ready in the world, kindly collect that. But nobody has done that. Everybody says, yes, you are right. Then why this is not being done? Then I will request my all educated people, they should understand the way power sector is getting damaged. Finally, whoever comes, whoever goes, economy will not improve if there are so many cuts in the power sector. The coal problem will continue. But hydro is such a thing, and India even we can develop more than 5 lakh megawatt, because North Eastern region itself more than 1 lakh megawatt can be done. Even 0.5% of all not been developed. In Arunachal Pradesh, lot of potential is there, and it provides lot of opportunity of employment, understand, as well as it helps the environment also to improve. So now people are meeting their industrial requirement through generators, putting lot of pollution to the system, and finally lot of loss to the industry. Then how the Prime Minister will make the Make in India successful unless these power projects are made. Now it is a good thing that with the help of Nepal, Bhutan, we are going to integrate through the grid and we will develop hydro there in Gujarat, Nepal and Bhutan, and we can get power with the grid. Now national grid is there, power is available, but not at affordable cost when the frequency is low. Now Gujarat, why they are developing? Because they have 5,000 megawatt of the gas power project. This opportunity is not available for entire India. In entire India, so hardly there is 5 to 7,000 megawatt of the gas power project operating. Many gas power projects are not operating because there is shortage of the gas. So fundamental issues of the technology, unless it is being understood by educated people of our country, things will not improve. Hence, the quality education has to be provided so that people can understand the fundamentals, people can do justice to the society, then only we can survive and we can do something good to the country. Now, all of you have done good work in power sector, but I want that at a time you kindly discuss all the things so that we can make this power sector actually successful. Now see, a lot of people are talking of solar. It is a good thing. In daytime, when solar power is available, it can be used to full capacity and you can keep the reservoir provided it is built quickly at shutdown, because hydro can be started in minutes, but this cannot be done thermal. So that is why this hydro could be kept in reserve. Whenever there is sun, bright sun, in daytime you can use solar, but it will be available for 5 to 6 hours. You cannot have round the clock. And now people are focusing, I will bring solar, I will be successful. I will have lot of power. What power? You cannot have the battery bank because it would not be so easy. Even solar power is costing more than 7 to 8 rupees per unit, even without battery. When battery is coming more than 10 rupees, then where will it go? Even today our tariff is highest almost in the world. Highest. You can compare from the dollar price also. What is their price, what is your price, you can see everything is available on the internet. Now, our country is made in such a way, God has made it, and geographical things are such that we have lot of potential on the hydro side. And we can develop it, and technology is available, design is available, but it is a special art. Everybody cannot do. All the prosperity of Punjab, Haryana, all these things have come only through this BBMB. If BBMB is not there, it would not have come. So fundamentals are to be understood that a power sector, that which type of power generation is required in this country. Somebody is saying thermal, somebody is saying nuclear. But you have to understand that what is requirement, how you are going to have the mix. Now in 98, the mix was 21-79. 79% was the thermal, 29 hydro. When hydro policy was made, it was brought to 27% by 2004 by India government. And 73% was the thermal. And that was the aim of Vajpayee Sahab. At that time he could understand that you can bring it to up to 40%. And what happened? In 10 years, Manmohan Singh finished this country finally. And today it is 16 to 84. 16% is the hydro, which can take the variable load. Now 84% is the thermal, nuclear, all these things. And whenever nuclear was signed, lot of people were rejoicing that we will have enough power. What power? How many nuclear you have brought? And what is going to the cost at the safety level and all these things? So actually, fundamental, unless we understand, nothing can be done. And I wish that all the knowledgeable people, technical experts are here. They should try their best to influence the political bosses in our country at various levels so that people can understand the value of reservoir project, pump storage project, so that we can provide interruption-free power to the people of our country. I have told the government, I have tweeted many times that you kindly provide at least 12-hour interruption-free power. For that you have to work 10 years on war footing. Power does not mean go and come. Power means continuous power, not cutting for 1 minute. And do underground distribution system in all the big towns of the country. And whenever you are going to bring 100 smart towns, kindly everywhere let us have underground distribution system. Then only our economy is going to survive, and we can do something, people will get the employment. Thank you.
I think now I would like Rita Singh ji, please give her a big hand. She's taken time off our business. She's a very busy woman and leader in the mining sector. Let us hear what she says.
Good evening, everybody. And I'm very thankful that I was invited here for this. And it's been very enlightening, I must say. I mean, when I listened to Mr. Iyer and Mr. Prasad, you came to know a lot. And we all who are sitting here understand what power means and what's the world energy to the whole world is and how critical it is. There were many subjects. I'm not going to talk too long. I'm just going to take 2 minutes of yours, but I think there was a lot talked about, whether it was housing, whether it was steel, whether it was coal, or whether it was energy, and all the resources. I think we are sitting on a massive resources. Whether it is coal, which we know that we are sitting onto a large coal reserve, which could be the solution for today's power, and by the time you put the other projects, or whether they are hydro, solar, or any other renewable energies, that is what is required. Whether it is, I'm coming from a steel industry, and I think we all know for the last 1.5 years, everything is talked about as a scam. Everything is a scam. Whether it is mining, that was a scam, coal was a big scam, but I feel that has to be really talked about it, debated a lot with everybody, because everybody felt that, oh, there was only some set of people who were making the money and the others were not. But I don't think so that was the real truth. There is partly a truth to that, but definitely I think those resources needs to be used, because there's always a thing that once you don't use that resource today, tomorrow you might not need it. It's like, years back when we didn't have the aircrafts, who thought that we are going to fly from one place to another, or what we are going to do? And certain other modes of transports were out, and this is the most important. So same as for whether it is for coal, or whether it is for the iron ore, what we make it for steel, or whether it is for any other raw materials. And I think those resources needs to be used. So I think it's a very good forum that we should do. Whether it's making large houses for the people, because this is an idea where everybody wants to know that yes, we need houses, so we need power, we need cement, we need steel, we need all the other materials, and people want affordable houses. And I think that's whether they start from 5 lakh rupees to 10 to 15 lakhs, and that will be afforded. And how do you make it? Should not be only made from steel, it should be made from any other materials also. But I think that has to be done, and it's not just the government, and I think the government definitely knows much more, and I think Mr. Prasad has mentioned that, and all the people who are sitting here know that. But I think we should all sit, because we are so critical certain times what's happening in India on certain things which is not happening, and especially the smaller cities and the villages which are not developing. And there is a movement there, but the movement is too slow. The momentum has to be caught, and that momentum needs to really develop very fast for us to grow and do that. So I would like to just say that is all the people who are there, that we cannot do away with the power. We can't do away with this roti, kapda or makan, which is talked about, as we know, and we are very entrepreneur, we are very intelligent, but we have to all work towards one direction. And I was attending a seminar which was very interesting. One of the professors gave that how a brain works. So, their brain works in different ways, and sometimes they have contradictory thoughts come. So if you put your brain into these 7 sections, and when you focus, so the first focus when you go to a seminar and say that today's focus is just the growth. So your brain then just focuses on that, and then you will only look at that growth. And I think what we want to do in the next 10 years to go ahead and do that, and we are capable of doing it. So I think we should move toward this, and the forum here should help, and we should all work together to make change certain mindsets, because what's happening to the coal today, I will think, because one of the previous secretaries of coal in one of the seminars mentioned that what has happened to this, where all the coal blocks are, stopped and finished will take another 5 or 6 years to take off, and that's what is the, and I feel that we need to address it much more faster. What's happening to mining? Iron ore, I'm in a steel business. 6 months back, the iron ore, all the Supreme Court gave an order and it was stopped. But are we waiting for the industry to be sick or have a cancer and then address the problem? Or would we like to address it now? So I'm also waiting for these अच्छे दिन. I'm very optimistic as a person, so I think अच्छे दिन तो आएंगे, पर अगर वो हम जल्दी एड्रेस कर लें तो हम लोग बहुत कुछ कर पाएंगे. और क्योंकि चाइना हमसे हरदम ही अहेड रहा है, क्योंकि जब वहाँ पे एक इंडस्ट्री ग्रो करते हैं तो वहाँ आपको यू गेट द लैंड, यू गेट द पावर, यू गेट द इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, यू डोंट टॉक अबाउट रेलवेज, यू डोंट टॉक अबाउट द प्रॉब्लम्स, यू डोंट टॉक अबाउट द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स ऑफ द ट्रांसपोर्टर्स और द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स, सो यू work together. And I think we all know that, but I think that's what is required, and I'm sure we're going to go ahead, and these kind of forums are going to help us to fight on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam.